Good evening, good evening, good evening. '94. All right. Howdy, 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 howdy. Today, we're going to finish out September 27th, 39 days to the election, beginning on page 194. Even so, Trump was slaying us in polls on this issue. He preferred to run on the problem, spouting incendiary language about an invasion by criminals and violent gangs, rather than fix the problem, because Trump is the whole problem. Never mind that never mind that immigrants are less likely to commit violent and property crime than American born individuals, or that cities with more immigrants have similar or lower rates of violence and property crimes than areas with fewer. Those statistics don't register like powerful visuals of migrant caravans or large groups of desperate people wading across the Rio Grande, especially when the visuals are accompanied by hysterical commentary by the likes of Fox News hosts designed to whip up anxiety and anger. And that's why you counter it with some "in the arms of an angel" and tell their actual stories. But see, that would mean that the United States would have to tell the truth about the United States. The United States would have to talk about destabilizing the governments of these people's home countries and why they're coming here. The United States would have to admit that it heavily markets itself to the globe, and then when people come here thinking that they can have a better way of life, the United States treats them like shit. There is a bleak and tragic history in this country of demonizing immigrants. The Jewish refugees who were denied entry when fleeing annihilation in Nazi Germany. The Chinese, Italians, and Irish who were hated, vilified, and slandered in almost the same terms as the right uses about today's migrants. The Japanese who were in turn denied freedom and due process solely on the basis of their race. Immigration had surged, and to some it felt like an invasion. We couldn't gaslight the people who felt that way by denying the problem, but you could remind people of the pride they have in their immigrant relatives coming to this country. You could remind people of all the stories they told about their Polish grandmother coming over here, or their Irish grandfather coming over here. When you remind people of their origin stories and how those origin stories connect us all, you have a better way of getting through to people. If we move politics away from talking points and put the people back into it, we'd actually get proper representation. We did not succeed in making a passionate case for a complete immigration overhaul that combined securing the border with better legal mechanisms for people who arrive here with a dream of success and contribution. People who are no different from the parents, grandparents, or great-grandparents many of us love and revere who made a similar journey in search of an American dream. And how about actually teaching about the immigration process to students in school? I did not have time in 107 days to undo 10 years of Trump's demonization of immigrants. No, but just like you were sitting down talking to small business owners, you could have talked to the people about immigration. All I could do was show that we had taken measures that were working, and that I took the issue seriously and would continue to press for the comprehensive reforms we needed. The challenge was to make this visit more than a photo op. Mark and I flew to Tucson and helicoptered to Douglas in bright red Cochise County. The town of 16,000 people has close ties with its neighbor city in Mexico, Agua Prieta, as do many border towns, and the challenge is to facilitate efficient legal crossings, which are helpful for commerce while cracking down on illegal ones. How about this? Because U.S. residents and citizens love crisscrossing the border, northern and southern, for lunch, for a little shopping, a nice little day trip. Why not remind them of that? And why not bring up the fact that there are tons of U.S. citizens that have fled to Mexico for better health care and more affordable housing and causing problems there? Go figure. It was a rough ride, and the Osprey chopper, the rising desert air tossing us around as if we were in a spin dryer. The temperature was also like a dryer, 106 degrees. At the busy port of entry, I listened as the border agents spoke of their challenges, and I thanked them for doing a tough job, covering about 260 miles of border. Then we took a walk along a line of fence built during the Obama administration. Trump had once staged a photo op touting his big, beautiful wall. Are those the only adjectives he knows? But he'd done it in front of a section that Obama built. Of the many things I was prepared to say at the debate, this was one observation I regretted not delivering. Well, here's the thing. The one that started building the wall was Reagan. It was Reagan. And also, in my link tree, in my bio, is the Trump Tracker. It's a website. Some academics out of the UK are tracking every time Trump goes against the Constitution, breaks the law, all of those things. So if you want to keep up with all of that to see how things are really going, and you can't say right-wing media, left-wing media, they have a they don't have a dog in this fight. They are chronicling this for posterity. So when people try to redact and rewrite history, the facts will be there. I was the one who'd walked through tunnels that traffickers used to smuggle contraband and broken up a heroin trafficking ring connected to Mexican cartels. I'd done the hard work to bring criminals to justice and relief to families of their victims. September 28, 38 days to the election. I was in San Francisco for a campaign fundraiser when I started to learn about the misinformation and conspiracy theories being spread about hurricane relief. It was a demonstration in real time of the dangers posed to real people by the unmoderated social media swamp, and anybody that puts a mic in the face of the GOP. We have to stop having so much smoke for one political party and not the rest. Someone with the username MattWallace888, who had more than 2 million followers, wrote that elites had engaged in weather modification to target counties that voted for Trump in the last election. These are unregulated, unsupervised adults that come up with this stuff. I thought the idea was too crazy even for the most gullible, but his tweet received more than 11 million views. In a second post, he overlaid the storm's path on a map of the 2020 election results, attempting to prove his crazy theory. The conspiracy took off on X and then TikTok, with videos there viewed more than 1 million times. This is why I always say, stop trying to turn everything into a conspiracy theory. Everything is not going to be in your wheelhouse. It is okay, no matter what age you are, to learn about something. Stop trying to pretend that you know everything and just come up with a way for it to make sense to you. I am not a surgeon. So if somebody's telling me about their surgery and I don't understand, I'm going to ask more questions. I'm going to reach out and look for things that surgeons have written instead of creating a conspiracy theory so I feel comfortable and feeling like I'm the smartest person in the room. That night, we flew to Los Angeles, where I had an event the following day. It was the only night I would sleep in my own home, in my own bed, during the campaign. Being home was not necessarily a good thing. I knew I knew as I opened my front door that everything would be deteriorated after such a long absence. I know this sounds crazy, but houses resent being unlived in, or mine seems to. Every time I come back from a significant time away, something goes wrong. If it's hot, the AC won't work. If it's cold, there will be no heat. One time, when I tried to use the oven, it literally exploded. The garden will look neglected. My herb garden yellowed. And I knew, arriving at 6:23 p.m. and leaving the next day with a full binder of tasks and schedule of calls to accomplish, I wouldn't be there long enough to do anything about it. Yeah, your home is no different than a car. You need to get somebody to go crank it from time to time. I would keep my road warrior mentality. I would take a bath, get a good night's sleep, and pretend my own home was a hotel. September 29th. 37 days to the election. Hair color, manicure, call and call and call. 1401, VP Rolling, fundraiser in LA, rally in Los Angeles, 2123, lid. September 30th, 36 days to the election. I canceled my campaign swing through Nevada and rescheduled media interviews, including with Alex Cooper of the podcast Call Her Daddy. I needed to head back to FEMA headquarters in Washington, D.C. I had a lot of experience at this. As a senator, I'd been on the committee that oversees FEMA, and I had an excellent relationship of trust with the agency's leadership. During the first Trump administration, I'd seen how relief efforts had been shaped by petty partisan agenda, and I was determined not to let anything like that happen on my watch. Wait a minute. Are you trying to low-key say that Biden had a little political pettiness in him? Because that's kind of how it's coming off. If so, what's the tea? Even as I was taking valuable time from my campaign to fulfill my responsibilities as vice president, which should come first, Trump posted on his social media site that Joe and I were going out of our way not to help people in Republican areas hit by Hurricane Helene. He's projecting. He's telling you what he did previously and what he would do again. Same thing he's doing today by once again proclaiming that if Zohran Mamdani wins and becomes New York City's mayor, he would withhold federal funding to New York City. In a second post, he said he had left Americans to drown in North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, and elsewhere in the South. He claimed that Georgia's Republican governor, Brian Kemp, had a hard time reaching Biden to discuss disaster relief, and that the president had been very non-responsible. All of it was, of course, lies. But the reason why it was believed is that, unfortunately, Trump supporters, well, Trump fans, we should call them at this point, sycophants, really, will lie. And they will allow themselves to suffer because they think that that will make a truth teller out of Trump. Trump may lie, but his fans lie more for him, on his behalf, free of charge. Kemp quickly rebutted Trump's claim, saying the president had called him and asked simply, "What do you need?" And remember, the Republicans in Georgia, a good chunk of them, started their own faction of the GOP in order to distance themselves from Trump. Brian Kemp wasn't fucking with that man. So, hey, Poetic. More than 230 people had died in the worst hurricane since Katrina, but instead of consoling and helping, Trump was stroking rage with falsehoods and making it harder for FEMA workers to do their jobs. Some FEMA workers had guns pulled on them. At his rallies, he claimed that our administration had spent all of the disaster relief money for housing illegal immigrants. As he knew, or should have known, the much smaller fund for migrant shelter is totally different from FEMA's disaster relief fund. It was Trump who, when president, took money from the disaster fund and directed it towards immigration enforcement. He tried to connect his bogus claims to his assertions about non-citizens voting. He said we'd given the FEMA money to their illegal immigrants that they want to have vote for them this season. Also, during this time, I kept trying to remind people Trump was not getting security briefings, and even if he was, just like previous presidents, it's not for him to speak on it. And what he was doing was insinuating that he was getting briefings and telling what was in the briefings. I want you to really take in just how dangerous Trump is willing to be because of his incompetency and his desire to be loved and praised and worshiped. Because to him, that's the definition of friendship. Elon Musk would pick up the lies and amplify them in his own post. Yes, they are literally using your tax dollars to import voters and disenfranchise you. See, the devil is in the detail. The devil is in the detail. I tell y'all all the time. Stop paying so much attention to the tone of what somebody's saying or who's saying it. Pay attention to the actual words because Elon Musk was very intentional. Let me repeat this for you. Yes, they're literally using yours in all caps, tax dollars because he knows he's not paying taxes. He is one of the ultimate welfare queens in this country. And for people that are so against immigrants and immigrants taking the jobs, the people that they uphold the most are either married to immigrants or immigrants themselves. Just like the network that they take as the gospel, immigrant owned. Yes, you can control the weather, Marjorie Taylor Greene would pile on. On the plane, I called and spoke with Governor Roy Cooper in North Carolina, Brian Kemp in Georgia, and mayors in the worst-hit communities in all the affected states. I tried repeatedly to reach Ron DeSantis, who remained unavailable. The list of what we were doing to help was extensive. See, the ones that keep playing with people's lives and livelihoods are the ones that need talking points the most. They are so diabolical that they're not even willing to do the right thing behind the scenes and just lie to your face. They want you to suffer and gobble up the lies and still vote to keep them in power. FEMA trucks of food and water were arriving. 24 search and rescue task forces have been deployed and already rescued and supported more than 1,400 people. The Coast Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Agriculture, the Small Business Administration, and the Department of Energy had all deployed personnel. It was, in fact, a massive relief effort. Sadly, in the aftermath, polls in the affected communities would show that whether people felt that the federal government had done a good job split exactly on party lines. Because once again, people would rather lie. And they think in the grand scheme of things, this is a game. It's about winning and owning the other side, even if they have to suffer. They knew that they were getting help, but they would get online and say that they weren't. And they would rile people up who would pull guns on and threaten FEMA, which delayed things. They were calling for certain politicians to come out, forgetting that that's going to delay rescue, that's going to delay aid. It's going to defer and deter things because they have to come in with security. It has to be all these other things. But they would rather suffer. So at the end of the day, they can go, look what Trump did for us. Make you more destitute than you started? Yay, I guess. October 1st, 35 days to the election. The day leading up to Tim's debate with J.D. Vance had been filled with tension. Though I'd come back to D.C. to get briefings on the hurricane catastrophe, it was a different crisis that put me in the Situation Room that day. The Iranian response we'd been concerned about had come in the shape of about 180 ballistic missiles. Sirens howled over Israel just before 7:30 p.m. local time, 12:30 p.m. in D.C. In the Situation Room, I monitored the attack. The Defense Department later shared publicly that our destroyers in the eastern Mediterranean were part of a coordinated response that downed most of the missiles. The limited damage and few casualties made it less likely that Netanyahu would mount a massive counterstrike and drag the region into full-blown war. Nope, not at that time, because he didn't have a U.S. president that he could bitch around. He did not have a U.S. president that he could easily manipulate. But BB from Philly did have a friend in the Oval by the name of Joseph Robinette Biden. Two things can be true at one time. There was more riding on Tim's debate than there should have been. Trump's proposal back in August to debate me 2 more times had been withdrawn. We wanted another debate badly. We needed it to shift our stuck polling numbers. We tried everything to goad or cajole Trump into it. He'd agree, and then his team, who was more disciplined than he was, would pull him back. You should have went to Twitter Spaces. He would have shown up. Shouldn't have done a standard debate. Y'all should have just had a conversation on Twitter Spaces. He likes that shit. And given that he was trying to make a name for himself and submit something on TikTok, because Truth Social at the time wasn't offering video features, could have just started a live. He would have came. He would have ran into the bathroom, locked the door to get on live with you to try to own you. You got to think out the box when thinking in regards to Trump. So that meant Tim would have to be the closer. It was not a comfortable role for him. He had fretted from the outset that he wasn't a good debater. Neither is J.D. Vance. Keep in mind, J.D. Vance was the fill-in for Gummy McGummerstein, a.k.a. Kirkistan. Charlie Kirk. Old Neck Fountain himself, who got owned by everybody every time he sat down for a debate. And yet people are calling for more justice and accountability than his grieving, non-grieving wife is. This heifer thinks she's Jackie O and she's looking for her Mr. Onassis. And she don't care who that Mr. Onassis is. As long as he has power or proximity to power and a nice little bank account to add to her bank account, she don't care. But I would say, hey, recognize a black widow when you see one. Kuda biscuit can't be that good that it's worth your life. He was so quick and pithy in front of crowds at our rallies. I thought he'd bring those qualities to the podium. He'd prepared with Pete Buttigieg, a consummate debater, and I thought his big heart and his good humor would counter J.D. Vance's malice and pessimism. Y'all trained him too much. You shouldn't have prepared him for a debate. You should have told him to talk to him like he talks to people at state fairs, at rallies, and everything else. Damn, do any of y'all know how to read the room? I mean, the shit was written on the walls in neon spray paint. But J.D. Vance is a shapeshifter and a couch fucker. And a shifty guy. He understood that his default meanness wouldn't play against Tim Walz's sunny disposition and patent decency. Throughout the debate, he toned the anger and the insults way down. As Van Jones later remarked, he sane-washed the crazy. There were no cat ladies, no pet-eating Haitians, no personal insults, just a mild manner, all shucks Appalachian pretending he had a lot of common ground with a nice Midwestern coach. When Tim fell forward and started nodding and smiling at JD's fake bipartisanship, I moaned to Doug, what is happening? Because once again, you all prepared him for a debate, and you told him and drilled into him about optics instead of letting him be him. If y'all would have just let Tim Walz be Tim Walz, learn what people's strengths are. Stop trying to put people in a box. I told the television screen, you're not there to make friends with the guy who is attacking your running mate. Girly pop, take yourself out of it for a minute. Take your personal shit out of there for a minute. You're not supposed to be there to make friends with somebody who's willing to help destroy the United States so that he can have power and have us taxpayers pay for him to achieve his goal, his dream, if you will, of vacationing in all 50 states. His words, not mine. He said it on the Katie Miller podcast. There was not supposed to be any on-air fact-checking in this debate, and there had been in mine. But the moderators did correct Vance twice on the overwhelming scientific consensus on climate change and on the legal immigration status of Haitians in Springfield. I don't know how y'all let somebody, two candidates, one for president, one for BP, who consistently made fun of the places that they were from and disrespected people who were previous neighbors of them, and they won. How y'all do that? Because, baby, all my campaign commercials would have been from their neck of the woods. I would have let the people hear what the folks had to say that went to school with them, that worked with them, that lived near them. Because they don't like those two men. They're still shaking their head at the rest of the country like, how could you? But we, the people, seem to have only responded to 1 out of every 5 lies that they were telling. There's about, we'll say about 100 loud-ass MAGA voices. And we let them scream. Oh, nothing about this election smells right. I don't see how we have final counts. If you all remember, 2 ballot boxes caught on fire. Those people hadn't gotten their ballots yet. People were coming online, and it was confirmed that they never got mailed ballots. People were able to call and have people's status challenged, and they were removed from voter rolls. All sorts of things went wrong. This is why the 82 million that decided to stay home and go, oh, everybody else got it, on site. You better be glad we have no way of right now. The rules were you guys weren't going to fact check. Vance complained petulantly and a flash of his more familiar persona. And that's when somebody should have picked up on it. Like, you were banking on them not fact checking, so you came prepared to lie? Tim fell into the pattern of defending his record as a governor. Then he fumbled his answer when the moderator predictably questioned why he had claimed to be in Hong Kong during the democracy protests in Tiananmen Square. Tim had been on his way to teach in China that summer, but hadn't yet left the United States on the date of the massacre. Instead of simply stating that he'd gotten his dates mixed up, but that being in China during a period of human rights oppression had profoundly influenced him, he talked about biking in Nebraska because he was nervous because you all tried to turn him into a debater. Excuse me. You see it all the time. Don't try to turn somebody into something that they're not. They can adapt. Tim is someone who has mastered speaking to people, whether they're for what he does or against it, face to face at state fairs. Oh, PJ Howie, you watched from the outside, came in to comment that this was boring. Couldn't have been that boring if you had to come in, because you could have scrolled. Did you think of that? The following weekend, Saturday Night Live did a sketch in which actors posed as Doug and me, sitting on our couch watching the debate. While I did not, in fact, spit out wine, It was otherwise uncanny in its portrait of our evening. Excuse me. Tim felt bad that he hadn't done better. I reassured him that the election would not be won or lost on account of that debate. And in fact, it had negligible effect on our polling. In choosing Tim, I thought that as a second-term governor and a 12-year congressman, he would know what he was getting into. In hindsight, how could anyone? Kamala, I'm still trying to figure out if you knew what you were getting into. Like, you're hypercritical of all the wrong people. I hope you're working on this before you jump back into any race. I really do. When they'd attacked his National Guard record, I had to talk to him about being resilient. It's a challenge when you have kids. Tim had a son still in high school and a young adult daughter whom I'd come to know to be as big-hearted as her dad. It's painful for them to hear their father unfairly attacked. For the candidate, the family that is your source of strength can become your weakness in a presidential campaign. Tim was outraged by the unfairness. How dare they? This is BS. I had to tell him, don't let them get in your head. You should have let them get in his head. You should have let him get out there and fact check. Because that's why the weak jokes were coming out. And a lot of people said they didn't even like Trump. But the one man on your ticket they felt was not strong enough should anything happen to you to stand up. You should have let him defend himself in the Tim way. You kept handcuffing him and you wondered why he stumbled at the debate. You want to be perfect Patty, and he riddled himself with anxiety trying to match your perceived perfection. When I was a newly elected DA, an elderly gentleman in Atlanta pulled me aside with a bit of advice. Baby, you be sure and don't make it look too easy. He knew it was not, and the higher you rise in the political food chain, the harder it gets. This is not a genteel profession. You must be ready to brawl. But are you? Are you? Like, I see you getting riled up and ready to rah-rah and nuck and buck now. But were you ready to brawl? Because it seemed like you kept trying to keep the peace when the peace was not what we needed. Okay, we needed you to meet him outside at 3 o'clock. Y'all trying to be diplomatic with somebody who can't spell dip and has the emotional regulation of a rabid squirrel on crack. October 2nd, 34 days to the election. In the Augusta, Georgia neighborhood of Meadowbrook, downed power lines looped over fallen trees. The once tidy streets of low-slung ranch houses were strewn with debris. A young woman wept as she recounted how her husband had been killed in the storm. She'd left her bedroom because her daughter needed something. And in the moment she was gone, a tree fell on the room where her husband lay in bed. Okay, I don't know what's tickling my throat. Good grief. As I made my way through the wreckage of homes and lives, the first responders described their tireless efforts to bring help. I was able to announce that the federal government would be reimbursing 100% of the cost of the recovery effort to local governments for the next 3 months, which doesn't always happen. I said that there was an immediate emergency grant of $750 available to anyone just by providing their address. This got wildly misconstrued. It didn't get misconstrued. People lied about it. People lied about it. And a lot of people lied about it because they thought that if they lied and people were like, psh, I'm not coming to get $750. I don't need $75. They really thought that they could double up for themselves. And some people just wanted to grift. They're destitute. Their houses are messed up. They've lost family members, but they were going to use that opportunity to try to be a millionaire overnight. Misinformation spread that $750 was all the victims would receive, which was ridiculous, but caused much unnecessary pain and anger that Trump was glad to fan. At the local senior center, I helped volunteers hand out meals to weary men and women facing the long labor of rebuilding their lives. It was, as always, such a stark contrast of the way disaster calls forth the best and worst of human nature. October 3rd, 33 days to the election. Country over party read the signs at the entrance of the Ripon College. The Republican Party was founded before the Civil War in Ripon, Wisconsin in 1854 with the aim of stopping the spread of slavery. Liz Cheney had come here today to help me stop Trump. She had been the third highest ranking Republican in House leadership until her outspoken opposition to Trump and her revulsion at his role on January 6 cost her her leadership positions and then her seat in Congress. You should have told them to go see your daddy. You should have told them that your daddy's about to come see about them. I mean, he died today. But, eventually everybody got to go back home, and the devil was tired of keeping his seat warm. But, I mean, Liz, your daddy shot his friend in the face while quail hunting. Your daddy convinced a whole president to give him so much power that we started wondering who the real president was at that time. That's what you should have. Liz Cheney, use a white lady. White ladies know how to weaponize the men in their family until they need to weaponize the men in their family. That's what you should have did. Right. Bombastic side eye. Criminal offensive side eye. There are many things Liz Cheney and I don't agree on, but we agree on many fundamental principles. High on that list, free and fair elections, the rule of law, and the First Amendment. And that Trump is an idiot. And you can have respect for someone with whom you disagree. Yeah, if I disagree on they think DC is better and I think Marvel is better. We can disagree on pizza toppings. We can disagree on favorite movies and television shows, genres of music, books to read. But civil rights, civil liberties, and the ability to eat and prosper and what to do with your body, fuck no. No. The fact that these people have not been ostracized and shown how much on the wrong side of history they're standing is why they continue. This is why they've been crying out for months now. Would you date a liberal woman? Would you date a conservative woman? What's it like here? Why are you cutting off family members just because we're MAGA? Yeah, it's time for consequences. It's time for consequences so it can lead to a conscience. Stop all of this. We can all get on. No, we can't. You cannot be against my very existence. And I'm supposed to sit down and kiki and cackle with you. There had been a debate in the campaign about where to put our time and resources. Should we focus on turning out our base, or should we give equal priority to talking to our opponent's base? First of all, once elected, you represent everybody. Let me repeat. Once elected, you represent everybody. So talk to everybody. Stop all of this. I'm just going to do what my voters want. I'm just going to do what's best for the populace at large. You represent everyone once you're elected. If I go and apply at Kohl's for a cashier position, I don't get to stand there and go, well, my people are just women. in height to 5'6". Anybody else? I'm not gonna. No, it doesn't work that way. Right, there are consequences in John Wick's world. At a strategy meeting in early August, Jen O'Malley, Jen O'Malley Dennon advised that we really need to bring Trump's numbers down since the universe of undecided voters had contracted. The time for persuasion, she said, was earlier in the cycle and had passed. People were going home to their base. A strategist, Nightbird. She's a strategist. Here's the thing. I need y'all to stop looking at people as numbers. This is part of why we have gotten here. You keep looking at us as numbers, as percentages. We're not. No time has ever passed to come tell us the truth. Everybody wants to talk about how we're divided, but you keep us divided. If not race, then by gender. If not that, then by age. If not that, then by education. And then you sit here and wonder why we can't be a united front. That's all we know, is being categorized and divided. And this is why people are having a do not compute moment. Because they're like, oh no, this isn't what I voted for, but it is what I voted for. Because they truly have in their mind that when I vote for this, my party will protect me and all that other stuff is for you. This is why there are now reports coming in of people going into grocery stores, having arguments with cashiers and managers, going, no, you need to lower this price because Trump said that it would be lower. I voted for him, so this price should be lower. And they're not saying it should be lower for everybody. This is the disconnect. And you want to campaign to categories instead of talking to the people and allowing them to assess based on facts and truth and choose the best representation for everyone. Because let me say it again, once you're elected, you represent everyone. Time is the most valuable commodity in any campaign, especially in one as brief as ours. If you talk about how damn short this campaign is, one more damn time in this book, I'm going to make like Hakeem Jeffries and I'm going to send you a strongly worded letter. Okay. I had to get at least one Hakeem Jeffries joke in today. I was glad to give some time to campaigning with Liz Cheney in the hope that we could reach those Republicans who believe, as we do, that fundamental principles in our democracy should never be partisan issues. Excuse me. Then y'all should have found a way to liven up Liz Cheney. She's from that old guard, okay? She's from that old guard that we're going to sit down and we're going to have a board meeting about the topics. Anybody doing that shit? Anybody paying attention? I mean, I did, but... I got you. The amount of that time, however, was exaggerated by the media's interest in our unlikely pairing. We campaigned together for only 1.5 days. She started her speech that day in Ripon by proclaiming that she had been a Republican even before Donald Trump started spray tanning. For those that are new here, we read this book together. I don't pre-read. I don't do anything. These are my... I forgot that she had said that. I forgot that she said that. Liz Cheney does have some nice little one-liners in there, but I guess you need some one-liners with a daddy name, with a daddy like Dick. You got to give one-liner so you can duck. Dick Cheney, the original duck hunt. Um, okay. That she had been a Republican even before Donald Trump started spray tanning. She was frank about her conservative values: limited government, low taxes, strong defense, and that family, not government, is the most important structure in society. Fidelity to the Constitution, she said, is the most conservative of our conservative values. She urged the audience to reject the depraved cruelty of Donald Trump. Bird shot. She said she had never voted for a Democrat, but that she would proudly vote for me. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Because the Republicans will be so proud to get a Republican behind the Resolute desk, right? Right? And they'll be like, yeah, we want to keep that going. Then all of a sudden, shit start going left, and we get a Democrat in there. It's not like more people decided to go out. Absolutely not. These Republican motherfuckers be voting for any and everybody. They just tell you, I'm a Republican. Because I'm like, why do you feel the need to tell me you're a Republican? I don't care who you voted for, Cletus. I mean, I do, but, you know. Hey, Nard. I know that she will be a president who will defend the rule of law. And I know that she will be a president who can inspire all of our children. And if I might say so, especially our little girls, to do great things, she said. So help us, excuse me, so help us right the ship of our democracy so that history will say of us, when our time of testing came, we did our duty and we prevailed because we loved our country more. I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. Stop including children in this shit. Stop making it reliant upon the next generation. We done next generationed ourselves into tyranny. Because, well, for the children, first of all, why aren't you an inspiration to the children that are around you? Number one. Number two, can we stop acting as if we're dead or we about to die tomorrow? Like we go into the voting booth and then it lights out for us? And a lot of people don't even have a base level knowledge of civics, but you're relying on children you're not properly educating to fix it in the future? Have you seen the children that were supposed to be our future? They're couch humpers and addicted to spray tan and swapping undercarriage juices on military bases right now, and they're not in the military. Rubio, Noam, I'm looking at you. And I'm not saying they're swapping each other's undercarriage, but I ain't seen them cozied up with their spouses lately. After the election, I invited her to come to the vice president's residence with her 5 children. I imagined her kids had the same fond feelings about the house where their grandfather lived for 8 years as ours do. Girl, you don't know about Dick Cheney. I think the fond memories they would have would be avoiding Papa. I'm just saying. Well, no, because they're always like, inspire them and encourage them to fight for change. How about we make some change happen now? How about we get that popping off now? How about we do that? Everybody wants to put everything off for the next generation so they can make a profit now. And go into the history books pretending as if they did something good. Our security footprint was too big to go visiting, so family came to us, and the residence was the one place big enough for all of us to be together, casual and private. So casual that my baby nieces did not always appreciate the art we had on loan from the Smithsonian was extremely valuable. If you all are having a family event and you know that your family is younger than hers and she's bringing grandchildren, why would you get artwork on loan? Like, I will never understand this for family residences, for people who have small children in their family that are going to be visiting regularly. Why? Stop playing with the people money. Like, stop playing with the people money. On a podium on the first floor, I had a large and gorgeous vase made by an acclaimed American artist. One day, To my complete dismay, I discovered Amara and Leela at the top of the stairs, bending over the banister, trying to see who could land a ball of socks in the vase the most time. Are you new to children? Are you are are you new to did you forget you used to be one of them and the shit you used to do? Are you one of those adults that act like you just popped out one day out of thin air, fully grown? Like, what the hell? You know, you remind me of one of them ladies that'll have a whole room in their house fully furnished with the most expensive furniture that can't nobody ever sit in. For why? For why? Right, kids doing exactly what they're supposed to do. Just like when somebody gets a new couch. Don't lay down and sleep on my couch. 3 months later. Having whole sleepovers on the couch. Girl, you bought it to use it. Use it. Or just save your money and sit your ass on the floor. Shit. I imagine Liz Cheney's kids have memories of similar antics. They probably didn't bring that shit into the house. Yep, covered in plastic. Covered in plastic. Like, Don't let Jamie fancy the guy. It's probably why he spends more time at his house in Cincinnati, Ohio than he does at the VP residence at this point. He used to that couch. VP, put it in the pull-out. October 5th, 31 days to the election. In the hills and valleys of western North Carolina, the force of the floodwaters buckled roads, picked up tractor trailers, uprooted trees, and washed away homes. 86 people in the state have been killed. The damage was even worse than what I'd witnessed in Georgia. Usually, hurricane effects are most severe on the coast, but unexpectedly, inland mountain communities have been harder hit. Yeah, it's called climate change. Before the storm, the area had experienced several days of heavy rain, saturating the soil and filling rivers. The Blue Ridge Mountains acted as a funnel, channeling the hurricane's massive rainfall through the valleys. The North Carolina Air National Guard had been flying supplies into remote mountain communities and doing low-altitude sweeps of the hills and hollows, looking for people in need of rescue since roads and bridges had been washed away and communications were down. As I shook hands and looked into tired young faces, I realized that some of them had also suffered loss in the storm, but were still showing up helping others. I told them, "You're doing God's work on the ground." Everybody ain't Christian. Stop doing that. And I'm saying that as a Christian myself. How about you just say you're keeping humanity alive? You are what will make the United States great. Because next time somebody tells me you're doing God's work, I'm going to ask them which God. Well, that brings us to the conclusion for today. We will pick up tomorrow, same time, same place. If you missed any part of today's, by the end of the night, this will be uploaded onto YouTube. If you missed any other parts, it is on YouTube in its own playlist, 107 Days. You can find my YouTube channel in the link in my bio. At 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, I will be over on YouTube for tonight's episode of Talk About It Tuesday, and we got a lot to get caught up on because there's been a lot that's been going on, and there's a lot of social commentary going on with things, and of course your girl is going to give you the historical context and some commentary. So if you're not subscribed here, make sure you are. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, why not? And if you're not subscribed on Substack, you are missing out. I am continuing my series on the many factions of the GOP since its conception all the way up to current day, so you can understand the whole evolution of the GOP. There's also a lot of videos, a podcast, vlogs regarding history over on Substack. So yeah, that's not the word I wasn't gonna say. G-evolution, Nightbird. That is not the word I was gonna say. But the last time I went on a tent using that word. I got banned on live, so that's why I paused myself. I'm trying to get better at it. I'm, I'm trying to get better. I'll be killing Smalls enough on Sunday night. He goes through enough in the morning with Thomas. Okay. I'm not gonna do that. I know I was supposed to have the schedule out yesterday, but things did not go as planned yesterday. But by the time you lay down and go to sleep tomorrow, I will have my schedule out. And I do have to make some changes to the GCPR radio schedule. Because there's some new shows, some new things. We're expanding. So yes. So, hopefully, I will see you all at 9 p.m. Eastern for Talk About It Tuesdays on Conversations with Taz. As always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Go out and get into some good trouble, but remember, nothing that requires bail in this economy. And also, most importantly, it only requires bail if you get caught. Bye, y'all.